So we're starting our second location, officially starting it here in about 3 weeks.
Good for you, man.
We already have about 30 budgeted hours for that location to start off with. My question is a two-part question. How do you ultimately define success for a general manager within their first year? And then what kind of KPIs are you primarily tracking within that first year?
Great question. So the two major ones that you really, from a macro perspective, are looking at when you come to a new location is growth and profitability. Like in the short term, you want growth to be the focus because they're not going to be able to be profitable in the first year. And so if you're doing sort of comp plans, et cetera, give them, hey, here's your profit percentage or distribution percentage, however you're working that. But
Mm-hmm.
that first year especially, I would give them significant incentive based upon revenue goals because they're not going to be profitable, because there's just so much that goes into getting all the new leads and going out and getting the customers and spending on advertising, buying more trucks. There's not usually a lot of distributable cash. And so we typically have had it where it's benchmarks like, hey, if you hit above 20,000 a month in revenue, because that's kind of like we want them to get there as fast as possible, hopefully within a month or two. Anything above 20,000 a month in revenue, we start having tiers of monthly bonuses based upon just straight revenue. And so you could really just have your profit sharing or your distributable cash percentage that you want to share with them as like, hey, this is the North Star where we want to go. You're going to make a lot more money here. But in that first year, we're going to do benchmarks based upon revenue. I think keeping it that simple is better than trying to do it based on like close ratio and number of leads and a whole bunch of other things, especially when number of leads is mostly going to come down to how much you spend on marketing. And so it just becomes a perverse incentive of them wanting to spend more and more on ads. Anything that you're kind of like wrestling with that though, in terms of like creating that either compensation plan or just kind of KPIs?
No, so we had a plan of going 50,000 salary and then 15% distributions. But I like the idea for the first year. We kind of already had like some KPIs that we wanted to track in terms of like new customers and close rate, stuff like that. And what kind of reporting responsibilities does your GM have for that first year? Like if we do like monthly leadership meetings.
Yeah, in terms of the reporting, like getting the actual numbers and the metrics, I put that on my regional manager in order to be able to find those numbers and make sure they're clean and pure, because it's their responsibility if I have a regional manager. Now, if you are serving as the regional manager, I would still take reporting as your responsibility, because you ultimately need to know what the business is doing. And you're going to anyways. So why like have them do it if you're just literally going to do the exact same thing to double check their work? And so I would take reporting on as still your function as you are serving as the quote unquote regional manager. And then the reason that I like using just revenue, like growth and profit, is because all the other KPIs lead into those two things. So if you're trying to grow really fast, having a high close ratio and more leads is going to lead to higher revenue. Right. As time goes on, efficiency of labor is a huge driving factor of something like profitability. And so instead of trying to take all the leading indicators of success, I'd rather just go after the ones that are easy to track, and that's lag, and that is my revenue and my profitability. And so I would say, what's your right now? I know you already have some budget hours of work being done there. What's the revenue per month do you think as of right now, like getting started, like without any additional?
Well, probably 6,000 a month starting off of that first or second location.
And are you involved in daily ops the second location at all?
No, I won't be.
This is just be my personal recommendation to you, Sam, because I know you and I know how you roll. And so I'm willing to go a little further with this. I would recommend going more than 15% distributable cash as a profit share for them. It's not going to be enough meat on the bone in year 2 for them to actually get excited about it. Because let's say in year 2, you get this thing up to, let's be conservative, let's say $300,000 in annual revenue for 2024. Okay. Probably not going to be super profitable. You're going to have a hard time convincing them going into year 2 that 15% of profit is going to be exciting for them. Because they're going to look at them and be like, okay, let's say we do 500,000 in year 2. And let's say we're 20% profit. That's $100,000. Am I really going to push my brains like I have for the past year for $15,000? That's usually unlikely. What I would say is make that so juicy that after year 1 of the massive growth but not being profitable, now they see this path to like 30% potentially even of distributable cash, right? And again, that assumes you're completely out of daily operations. But I'm not saying that's what you should do. I'm just saying think about that because I see a lot of GMs getting kind of lost after that first year and leaving because there's not enough meat on the bone to actually make the business profitable because it's not easy. Like that second year is when you really start to actually make money and have distributable cash. And if they're not getting a big enough chunk of it, like ultimately they are the driving factor as to whether or not the location will be successful. And so I just make sure that's as like juicy as possible for them from a retention perspective, as well as just like motivation throughout year one when it's brutal. It's just so difficult as a GM to be running the location.
Right. Yeah, that's really good. Is that what you do for your GMs? Is around 30?
Yeah, we do 35% if it's brand new. And it goes down if they're joining a location that already has, I think it's like at 20,000, 40,000, 60,000 a month in revenue. That percentage goes down, but we do that exactly. Start at 35% and it works its way down, I think all the way down to 10%, depending on the amount of revenue that they are stepping into the location with.